This is Brian with Top Gun Basketball. We're here shooting at South Mission Beach in San Diego, California. What I'm going to talk to you today about is our practice structure and our culture and our philosophies behind how we prepare our teams to get better every single week, every single minute of practice, every single hour. And this is going to be the first part of a two-part series. I call this the R3 and the S3 model of how we structure our practices. And today I'm going to be talking about the R3 model. So it sounds pretty fancy or whatever, but I'll explain it to you in very simple detail. Now, what I realized in my 8 or 9 years of doing all this is I've really realized the sense of urgency. Number one, as youth coaches, I don't have the luxury of a high school or a college coach or my other coaches. We don't have the luxury of having these guys for a long period of time. We just have them an hour and a half for 1 day a week, or twice a week. We go hour and a half, hour and a half. So we have 3 hours a week to get the maximum amount, and which I feel is a very important part in these formative years, 5th through 8th grade specifically, 7th and 8th grade really important, because I really want to have my players from 8th grade, if I'm coaching them, I want to send them off into high school, and I want coaches from around the county being like, wow, these guys really know what they're doing. They're ready to go. And for the most part, we had a really good season with my team. We brought 6 players to Vegas, and all 6 made varsity, and all were contributors. Some were double-digit scorers. Some got Division I offers. They were ready to go. So I've structured this from everything that I've learned, and let me backtrack that for a second. If for 3 hours a week, it's not that much. So as I've gotten older in my career, I've realized how important 1 minute of a basketball practice is. I mean, I've even gotten to the point where usually we don't have much time to practice before a game. Like there's like 5-minute warm-up or something like that. And one of our rules is to always have a better warm-up than the other team, and that's another video in itself as well. But I get really excited when the ref's like, oh, well, you have like 8 or 9 minutes, because then I have some drills that I can put us through, and I almost teach it like a practice. Because imagine, I learned this from Don Meyer at a coach's clinic. If you treat usually college teams get 20 minutes or an hour before 4 games to warm up before their game. He says treat that's like an extra practice. If you're practicing 20 minutes and you're working to get better before games, that's an advantage there. And if you watch my first video, I always talk about how to gain the advantage. So in our practice structure, you know, I'm really big on number one is how do you come into the gym and how do you practice before the gym, the practice, because some of these kids get dropped off for 15 minutes. There's so many things that they could be doing. They could be working on their free throws. They could be doing 2-ball hand dribbling. They could be doing mic and drills. And after the practice, they can be getting shots up and not just messing around. You'll see if you don't put this into your philosophy and your culture, you're going to have these kids throwing up half-court shots. And I get that. There's a lot of fun to be had and they're younger. But we have a very disciplined structure. So let me just talk about our R3 model. And in an hour and a half, I broke it up into 3 segments. Now, this is the very first year where we have a 10 and under through 17 and under teams. We have 1 team at each level. For example, we have a 10 and under, that's 4th graders. Let's say 13 and under, that's 7th graders. And now we have a high school program, 15s, 16s, and 17s. Now, we are going to run the same thing at each level, and everything's going to be modified just a little bit. But for the most part, the biggest difference in each level is the nuances and the speed of the game and how fast you can pick things up and the speed of implementation. Now, listen, left hand, right foot back. get into it, the last thing that I want to say is the biggest thing in R3. Let me backtrack that also, actually. So R3, which I'm going to be talking about today, is about, this is one of the reasons why we filmed it on the court. Now, this is not the best, basketball. There's other playgrounds where in LA and Chicago where kids really learn the game. They learn physicality. They learn how to play against older players. They learn that if they don't play correctly, they're going to sit out for a few hours. We don't really have that anymore in San Diego. Our players don't have that culture. So we really try to implement these two schools of basketball. There's one school where you're getting beaten up by your older brother and you're trying to beat him and there's no fouls. And then there's the other school where it's the coaching, how to come down a down screen, how to, do all that stuff. So in R3, we're more focused towards the school of basketball where it's the physical part of the game, the dirty side, or not so much the dirty side, but the physicality. And I'm not going to call too much in R3. This is the day where we want to go hard the whole time, hour and a half. There's going to be a lot of teaching involved, but we want to be going at it. We want to work on being competitive. Everything's going to be competitive, and there's not going to be many fouls called. If my defense coach says, "Hey, look, we're fouling every single play," I'll say, "Hey, defense, let's try not to foul, but we're going to play through a lot of stuff because we want to be mentally and physically tough." Okay, that's a big part of the game. So the other thing is speed of implementation, and this is for both days. Now, there's a study quickly that I'll talk about that they did in UCLA, and they said that the top successful people, what they do is they implement things. When they learn something, they implement it quickly. So if somebody told me, for example, at a coach's clinic, "Hey, this is something that we like to do and we get a lot of success for," the coach will try that drill right away in his practice, and the faster that he does it is the better. I've been at coaches' clinics where 3-4 years ago where I didn't put in any of the stuff. So what I try to do is I try to put in stuff quickly, and this is what the most successful people do. They put it in, and if it works for their team, it does, and if it does, it doesn't. But if you never put it in quickly, you're never gonna do it anyway. So I'm gonna get right back to that. So very quickly, I'm gonna get into our structure of R3. R1, R2, R3, and these are all broken down into 30 minutes. R1 is our routine, and we have 30 minutes of routine. We do the same thing every single time. We never deviate from this, and we can really get it down in one season. You can imagine when we have a team from a very long time how good this can really get. This is our routine. This is passing. This is ball on the board. This is when we do our 3-line break from our video that I talked about. And if every detail isn't perfect, we whistle them off and they're off, and then they sprint off and somebody else goes. And we should be flawless on R1. That's our routine. That's 30 minutes. We get a water break. We make sure our captains have us ready to go. R2 is our repair section. And usually I have a category of 10 things for all of our coaches. So if they had a game and their transition defense wasn't good, they pick 1 or 2, and their rebounding wasn't good, then I have 4 or 5 drills that are really, really strong for youth basketball and all the levels that they could say, okay, for 30 minutes, and we'll split them up in 15 minutes, or a lot of times I do a shell drill because we can do a lot of different stuff in the shell drill, 4 and 4. This is where we're repairing, and we're really focusing on the 2 things that we need to work on the most, okay? So that's when we do our repair, and then R3 is when I want to give them at least 25 minutes of scrimmaging. So we'll do 4 and 4 and 4. We'll do what we call Arizona, or we invented a new name for it, which is called blue ball, where it's 3-on-2 continuous. But here's the thing. Going back to speed of implementation, if we just worked on repairing, we're not doing good at, let's say, who's the most open guy on the floor at any given point of time? It's the guy that set the screen. So I really focus on things that really makes a kid look coachable. And I just was picking this out. It's just a random thing. If I see a guy set a down screen and a guy curls off of him hard, usually that guy that sets the down screen just sits there. But if the guy curls hard off the down screen and you have that guy that sets the screen push up hard or do a double curl around him or push up hard to that elbow, that guy's going to be wide open. So if I see a guy explode off that down screen, and that's something that we're working on the repair phase, you bet that that's something that I'm really going to be. I want to put that into play while we're scrimmaging. I might start the 4-on-4 and say we're going to start with the down screen and we're going to go with a curl and then we're going to pop off it and then we're going to play. So I'm really looking at these people that are going to implement this stuff really quickly. So that's our model. R1 routine, R2 repair, and R3 run it, and we're really implementing it. Why am I making these videos? I'm making it for our players. I'm making it to get our culture really clear. And number 3, I'm making it for our coaches as well, because I want our coaches to implement this stuff. I think coaches should be getting better every practice. The assistant coach should be getting better. They should be implementing the stuff that I'm talking about. I tell them to read books. I tell them to watch videos. I tell them to do a new drill that they're unfamiliar with to become a more dynamic coach. They should be implementing the same stuff as well. So that's the R3 day. And a big thing that I do is transition.
What did I just say to the crowd? What did I just say? What did I just explain? What did I just say? More specific. What did I say? What did I say? Specifics.
You said high school sucks.
Hold up. I said what?
You said high school sucks, and
I didn't say high school sucks. I said high school mode.
You're in high school mode. You want to get them faster.
That's right.
Mates and misses are treated the same.
I said high school is too slow. This is college now. And I use the term high school mode because these kids come in here and they're in high school mode. That's right. I call it high school mode. And again, I don't say that to be facetious with you or I'm above you. Don't misunderstand it. What I'm trying to tell you is it is about transitioning. It is about using your voice and moving with a purpose. And I'm going to give you a classic example, okay? And this is why I love this game. Because it teaches you to control tempo and transition from defense to offense and offense to defense. Okay, Rich, you play your spot. Okay? Close that up, here. Okay, this is here. Go. Get wide. Okay, I short. Okay, breathe. Okay, okay, the problem is now Rich got out of 3. Who's going to get Rich? I can't get him. Talk? I got Rich. Okay, I got you. Stay high. Jump to the ball. Okay, so that would just be one little example. And there's obviously probably a bunch of them. And it's about using your voice, being efficient, playing angles, understanding space, etc., etc., etc. Are there any questions on that?
R3 should be about transitioning spot to spot. Everyone should know. This thing should run itself. To really know if your culture, like my buddy says, are you a fraudulent culture or are you a real culture? If emergency happens and there's no coaches there, can we run this practice pretty much the same without any coaches there? Will it be a fine-oiled machine? Will it run itself with the captains and the leadership? And so that's the model. And then the last thing that I'll say is that I love is when I'm coaching one guy. A lot of times you're just coaching one player and you're repairing something for one player. Train your teams. The great teams will all be listening as if I'm coaching, say, Jeff, I'm coaching everybody on the team. Everyone should be soaking up everything as if they're being coached. There's no reason for me to waste it on one guy. I'm teaching one guy, but I'm teaching everyone. So I'll get on them if they're not paying attention, because I'm coaching him, but I'm coaching the whole team. So that's our R3 model. And the next series is going to be talking about our kind of 180-degree different day, which is the S3 model. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you here soon.